established.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What is up, gamers, and welcome back. I don't know how many gamers are in here right now, but hopefully there's a few of you at least listening in. And today I have a special guest with me. Joe from Scarlet Sprites is here to bless us with his knowledge and wisdom of arcade gaming and
Oh boy.
Neo Geo.
Yeah, it's setting the bar high right out of the gate.
I got to put a little bit of pressure out there, but no, it's great to have you here. I've never done a live with you before, so this is fun. It's exciting. And how have you been? So tell us real quick, what is your channel on YouTube about?
Yeah, the channel on YouTube is primarily focused around Neo Geo and anything arcade related. So whatever I happen to have my hands in at the time, and if I have time to put something together, that's what gets tossed out there and shown to everybody. I think the last video was a while ago. It was Virtua Fighter stuff I was tearing through, but I have pieces of so many videos right now that are unfinished that are just sitting on my computer. Mortal Kombat, Killer Instinct cabinets, Open Ice, so many cabinets and quite pulled together. But definitely looking forward to hopefully getting some of that done this summer and out there.
Yeah, I know that that whole piecing videos together thing and arcade machines. I mean, I have like PCBs kind of like stacked up in different places in my garage too. So it's like projects, but kind of like we were talking about earlier with real life stuff, it's hard to fit it in sometimes, right?
Oh yeah, it's so tough. The arcade hobby itself is just so demanding sometimes. There's a lot of just piecing things together and tinkering and sometimes fixing, a lot of times fixing in my case. But yeah, it gets out of hand quickly.
Yeah, for sure. So I was thinking about this because obviously you're like a huge Neo Geo fan, and kind of like we were talking before the show, I've been on this Neo Geo kick. Of course, I mean, I love Neo Geo anyways, but I've kind of been on this kick, just the convenience of playing it on my couch and stuff. And I was thinking, like, I wonder what Joe's very first Neo Geo game ever was and where you played it.
Yeah, that's funny. I can remember that. It was a 4 slot in a sports bar in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and it had Baseball Stars, Nom 75, and I'm trying to think but those were the two that I played. I was playing Baseball Stars, the first one, Baseball Stars Professional, and then Nom 1975. They're on Neo Geo. And I was pretty hooked early on. And then to think like, oh, this is an actual console. You can buy this. Like this exists in a retail store. It just kind of blew my mind. And then the price tag, like the average kid was getting that at the time. So it was all arcade. It was, if you could, that's the only chance I had to play it.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of crazy because my first Neo Geo experience was actually, there's this little hole in the wall video game store. It was like it's more of like a computer cross video game store. So it was like when you had like the Atari ST, Commodore 64 era in the 90s.
Yeah.
And my dad took me there, and you walk inside. It kind of looks small from the outside, but you walk inside and it goes very far back. And the first thing you see when I walked in was a Genesis kit, and and they had it on display. And then as I walked over a little bit more, there's a Neo Geo, and I look over at my dad and I'm like, what's this? And Magician Lord was playing on it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, that's a Neo, and he starts telling me about it, like he knew what it was. And he's like, that's a Neo Geo. He's like, that's basically, he's like, it's an arcade, but that's the home version of it. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like, so this is exactly what it, plays in the arcade. And he's kind of explaining it to me. And he's like, yeah, you can even take, one of the salespeople came over and said, you can even take like the memory card and put it in the arcade machine. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like blowing my mind. Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just of course looking at the sprites and stuff and just going like, dude, this is insane. Like the graphics, like you could just tell it was like, arcade quality or whatever, versus next to the Genesis, which had the much smaller 68,000 processor.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're right. Like at the time, like I want to say my facts are probably off a little bit, but I know at the time when that hardware came out, there was nothing close to it for years. I want to say if it's the Capcom CPS one, that gap finally closed a little bit, but yeah, Neo Geo, there's nothing like it for several years. Then alone to think that was, being offered, you could buy it for your house if you wanted to, but
Right.
it was wild. And the memory card thing, yeah, you're right. I don't know anybody that did that. I don't ever remember seeing anyone have like their own memory card at the arcade. I'm sure people did, but I just yeah, it's a cool feature. I just never saw anybody use it back in the day.
Yeah. So I had a friend who had a Neo Geo, and I never saw him use it, but when I saw he had a Neo Geo, I was like, oh my God, did you ever get to use the memory card at the arcade? Like, how cool would that be
Yeah.
to do that? And he's like, yeah, I've taken it over there before. That we had an Aladdin's Castle that was probably a couple miles away from where he
Yeah.
lived. And anyways, I of course was I loved it, and I thought the idea of it was so cool. But I mean, what were they, like, 5.99 back then or something?
Yeah. It was I think you're spot on. 4.99, 5.99. It was somewhere in there.
Yeah.
The cartridges were like $200.
Right. Yeah, yeah. And my dad was like, he was like the layaway type. Um,
Yeah.
who remembers layaway? Me. Uh, and so if he wanted to get us like a game or something, it would usually be on layaway or whatever at I think it was like Walmart. Did layaway. But anyways, we were kind of like Sega kids. Um, as far as the ports that we would get and stuff. And I still think that Sega had some of the best Neo Geo ports as far as the way the game played. The sprites were never going to be as colorful and
Yeah.
everything, but like as far as like the way the game played, I always liked the Genesis versions of those games personally. But did you ever get a console version of the Neo Geo as a kid, like let's just say before you were 18?
No, never. It was
Okay.
I
That's a
no.
pipe
I
dream.
I don't even know. I remember going to college and I thought like, okay, here's like a big new world of tons of people, and there's definitely people who play video games here. I bet somebody has to have that. And I never saw it. I never even saw it until I went to like a convention, probably, boy, I don't know, maybe early 20s. We're talking maybe not like 98, 99, early 2000s, somewhere in there. That's the first time I even like saw one and was able to touch it. i
Oh
never
wow.
I
Okay.
never knew anybody that had the console and never saw it. And yeah, I saw it was on a, when I say convention, it's not like conventions are today. We're talking about uh, like a room in a hotel, and Rubbermaid containors and
Right.
and stuff like that. That was a convention back then.
Old school.
And yeah, and I remember some guy pulled it out of a bin and had it up on a table, and we were all looking at it. I mean, it's the first time I saw the controller and was able to touch it, and it's like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy. And I don't remember what he wanted for it, but whatever it was far past what a college kid was gonna pay even in the late 90s, you know?
Yeah.
And they're still making games for it technically. Like Neo Geo was still cranking out, or SNK was still cranking out games,
Hmm.
through the early 2000s. So it kind of was still an active console in some ways.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the things that was crazy about it. And I mean, gosh, uh, what was it? I remember my friend mistakenly bought the MVS version of Samurai Showdown 3 because you got it for like $30 on eBay or something. There was a time period in the very late 90s, very very early 2000s where you could get those games on eBay, like the MVS carts, for so freaking cheap with the cardboard box and all the, you know,
Oh, like the
um,
full kit.
yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And oh God, I look back and I'm like, man, I wish I would have known more back then. But real quick, let me say hi to some of the people in the chat. We have Solomon McNeil, Toxin, Messiah Oneness Gaming, JJ, Ballistic Coffee Boy, Bono's Tecmo, and Wolfenaz showed up. What's up? And Chris Harris, hey, hey. Super Retro City, nice to see you here. And Jason Little Alien, what's up, what's up? And a Toxin, if I didn't already say that. And Paul, good to see you guys. Arcade Alex, so lots of good peeps up in the chat. Nice to have you guys here tonight. I will do my best. Oh, and there's Stringer. What in the
Yeah,
hell?
kick him out. Just kick him out.
Insta ban. But yeah, no, it's great to have y'all here. So I will do my best to keep track of the chat. If we're slow in responding, you know how I do. I like to converse. So say less. Exactly. Just slap me in the face and tell me to shut up. All right. Not really, but okay. So
Yeah, you were talking about the MVS kits, and I feel the same way because I had it's probably when I got out of college is when I thought like, okay, I'm gonna pick up some Neo Geo games and I'm gonna start this. And I had no way of even playing them. And I just remember the full kits were still more expensive than single cartridge, but you're right, like the single, or I'm sorry, the kits were a fraction of what they're charging now. And I just went cheap because I'm fresh out of college and poor, so I'm buying these MVS loose carts, and I wish I would have gotten so many more kits because it's just a missed opportunity.
yeah, but I mean, at least you got the cards. Like I didn't even really get that. And I mean, dude, like, yeah, you could get games for like 20-30 bucks. I mean, people were just practically giving them away, and they were so
Yeah.
abundant back then too, because it was like arcades were, really changing the direction of the way that they were operating and stuff like that. So um pretty crazy. Paul says, did I lose the stream? Are we good? Are you guys still there, chat? I hope so. You okay? Is it just me, or has YouTube? Quick side note: has YouTube been weird lately? Has it been doing weird things? Because I mean, I don't have the greatest internet, but I have been having weird issues with YouTube on the side. All good
Hmm.
here. Okay. Um, but with like delays and stuff like that. So I don't know. Maybe it's just a regional thing. Who knows?
Yeah, the preview that I saw with you earlier is frozen on my side, but I can still hear you.
Hmm, weird. 14K modem. Okay. So this kind of leads me into our next question, which is, did you have a 3DO as a kid?
I did. So that was one I did.
Oh,
I did.
okay.
And I still have it. I never got rid of it. So this will kill you. I was one of those kids the weird kids that kept their boxes and instruction manuals for all of their Nintendo games and Super Nintendo game. I kept everything, so it was
Mm-hmm.
all complete in
Me too.
box.
Me too.
Yep. And so when 3DO came out, I think, I always say, I think everybody thought 3DO was going to be what PlayStation eventually was.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of the hype around it,
Mm-hmm.
in EGM and, discs and full motion video incorporated into games and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, wow, I have to have this. And I got it after their first major price drop, and I think it was a pretty considerable drop because I think that came out, it was like 750 or somewhere around
Oh
there.
yeah,
And that was like in the 90s, right? Like that was crazy.
it
Like
was
that was
insane.
crazy money. And I think I got it at Babbage's for 3.99 after like a major price drop. And then there was like some type of coupon with trade-ins and whatnot. But all this to say, I had been saving money because I knew it was coming out, like birthday money, anything I could get, and odd jobs and stuff, and just stashing money. And then I got somebody who wanted to buy all of my like complete in box stuff, and I sold it. So that sucks because I had so many completed box Nintendo games, black box stuff, and
Mm,
all the way through, my child, and I just unloaded it all in order to get the last chunk of money I needed for the 3DO, and then I had it, and I was just like, well, when are we going to get these awesome games?
yeah.
Like, I mean, it's fun, and it was different, and the audio and everything. Like, I loved. Like Need for Speed was great. Like that was the first like real great game in my opinion for 3DO, and great. I think you could probably put in quotation marks. It's a good game, which is I don't know. And Return Fire was pretty good. I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
Best home version of Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, in my opinion, at the time. Like I thought it was the audio again, arranged tracks,
Yeah.
Samurai Showdown, a little bit of Neo Geo on the 3DO. And it was funny because I started realizing that a lot of the stuff that was good on 3DO was still in mostly 2D stuff.
Right.
He still hadn't quite mastered the whole, like, what are we doing with 3D gaming at that time. The pack-in game Crash and Burn, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if you've ever played that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean the frame rate on that is just abysmal. Like
Oh
it's like
God.
playing it today. It's like, what the hell? Like this like is this somebody's like intern project, or like what is this? This is awful. But I mean it was pretty neat at the time. It was just because you didn't really see stuff like that until then, and the early days of 3D gaming. But yes, I answer your question. I did have a 3DO back in the day, and um, yeah, I mean it's bittersweet because it came at the price of me unloading uh, all of my Nintendo and a lot of my Super Nintendo stuff at the time too.
Yeah. I feel that because before I joined the military, I unloaded all of that stuff, and I had such a nice collection of CIB games, and um, my NES. I had the boxed deluxe Rob set,
Yep.
and it was a really nice collection. But I didn't have, so I never got the opportunity to get a 3DO like when they came out or whatever. I don't think I picked one up until very early 2000. So like maybe 2001, 2002 when they were
Hmm.
really cheap, like dirt cheap. And because I always wanted um
Plumbers don't wear ties.
but those games, like I always wanted to try out a 3DO, and they were so cheap that I was like,
Yeah.
all right, I'm just going to, swoop one up. Plus you could burn games, download games by that time,
Yep.
if you had a DSL connection. Um and and they had some cool games on there. So, but by then they also had Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo for matching service on Dreamcast, so it wasn't, the 3DO version paled in comparison because it didn't have parallax scrolling, and the
Hmm.
backgrounds don't move and stuff. But yeah, I mean, looking at it for the time that it came out, though, it 1000% was hands down, the only way really to play, I think, Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo.
Yeah.
I think it was the only port that was available at that time.
Yep.
So we have a 6.99. What is that? Canadian super chat from Arcade Alex. AOL upgrade fun. Oh, AOL upgrade fund. Yeah. Uh, that was the day. Those were the days back then when you would get those compact computers for like $3,000 and then get the 100 free hours of AOL and getting those chats, man. And those chats were just pure debauchery.
So what version of the 3DO did you get what was the first one did you get, like the FC1 or
So I got the FC1.
Yeah.
And it was the cheaper one. And so I just went with that. But what I don't like about the FC1 is the tray. I like the top loading FC10 better. And so that's what I have now, because you don't have the worry of it's going to end up malfunctioning or jamming or anything like that. So I like the top loader better.
Yeah. I've replaced the drive in mine once, probably like 5 or 6 years ago. I had a Harvest an Apple CD-ROM drive and stole some parts out of it and got it working again.
Oh my
And
God.
then a couple of years ago, or not, that was a couple of years ago. And then a couple months ago, I put the ODE in. Like I just sucked. Because I could hear the drive grinding again, and I was just like, I'm not gonna do this again, and just suck it up and buy a ODE for it. And I stuck it in, and that's what I got. So
How does it work?
You mean how does the ODE
Is it
work?
is it smooth? Does it work good? I mean, like, you haven't had any issues with it.
Oh, I have.
Oh.
I have, and I've talked to some people about that. It seems like I don't know if it's a power issue, and so there was recommendations on certain capacitors to replace. Well, the whole system is recapped, so it's not that. I tried different SD cards, but basically it does work. It's just a matter of if you turn the console on, you load a game, you play it, and you want to switch games, you got to power off the console, and then you got to play a game basically hitting the power button to get it to boot again, because it doesn't always boot for whatever reason. I don't know why it is. And I've heard someone else that was telling me that they've had the exact same issue with that ODE. So
Okay.
it kind of sucks, but
Yeah.
if you sit there and play with the power button, you can get it to then you go in and pick another game.
So I'm gonna go ahead and keep on doing the limited run thing and burning my own discs.
Yeah, probably. You could just do that. Yeah, you don't need to spend $200 on the ODE or whatever it was. It was just, I thought I was doing myself a favor, and I wasn't.
Well, yeah, and I've been looking into it and considering it, and I think that I've been kind of hesitant because of the price, and I'm like, I mean, is it really worth, for me, is it really worth doing that versus just, burning the discs myself? Because most 3DO games are fairly expensive, and I mean, I don't really spend a lot of time playing it, but I like having the games in case I want to explore something like Lucian's Quest, for example.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's why I wanted it too. I wanted to be able to just, like, it's nice to have the console hooked up, be able to turn it on, and then just pick whatever game I wanted. And I was like getting even, we were talking about this before we even started here tonight. Convenience is key, and that's really what it was all about. And I was getting so lazy that I don't even want to pull the CD binder out. Like, I don't want to go flipping and looking for discs, and I'm just going to be able to turn it on and pick the game. As it turns out, it's not quite that easy, but for the most part, I would say it's probably like 85%. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a firmware thing. I don't know, but
one of the things that blows my mind with 3DO is that the emulation for it still isn't like zeroed in perfectly. So which is another reason why I still own it, is because, any console that isn't emulated perfectly, I definitely want to own the hardware. Jaguar is kind of one of those where it's gotten really close now. But it's still not perfected. And speaking of which, just a real quick comparison, the Jaguar versus the Neo Geo, it blows my mind. I don't know if you've ever looked at this, but the Jaguar has the hardware to be able to actually like do the same thing that the Neo Geo did. It has the color palette, the resolution capability, and all the other things that it needs to. Whoa, all the other things that it needs to really like play those beautiful types of arcade style
Yeah.
2D games. And I was like, dude, what if somebody did like a Neo Geo project for the Jaguar and like, ported like Neo Geo? That would be really cool, I think. But the controller is like, oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know much at all about the Jaguar. That's another console that I've never owned. Even now, I've never I don't even know if I've played a Jaguar, to be honest.
Yeah, there you're not missing a whole lot, especially if you didn't have it when you were younger. But there are definitely some games that I would say you absolutely have to play. And you don't necessarily have to play them on Jaguar, but like one, for example, is Tempest 2K. And if you can't play Tempest 2000, which you can emulate it and it'll play really great, but there's Tempest 4K on PlayStation. And I would recommend checking that out because on the new PlayStation generation, sorry, like PS4, PS5, I think it's about $5, and it's just a really fun game, especially if you like Tempest. If you like the grid shooter, it's like a more psychedelic, fast-paced version of it with really cool music. So, but yeah, it was Jaguar. I felt like was kind of like the 3DO in the sense of you wanted it to be a little bit more than it turned out to be, and then they just didn't have any third-party support. And
Yeah.
I think because of the architecture of the system, it was very difficult to get people to want to develop on it. And so there's that. I mean, that's kind of like the long and short of it. But before we get too off track with that, I just wanted to bring that up so that now you can go look later and be like, oh yeah, I'm curious about the Jaguar. But talking about 3DO burn games, this whole thing with limited run. All right. I mean, that's kind of been like a buzz thing going on. And I'm very curious. Like, I want to talk about a few things here, but I'm very curious, like, to get your thoughts on it as well. Because I just am kind of like, I really agree with what everybody has been saying as far as they should have told consumers like outright that they were using burned media, like the way that they were reproducing the discs and not pressing them. And that's another thing too, is that anybody who's like a 3DO enthusiast knows that you can't just burn a 3DO on a 3DO game on a CDR. You have to burn it at like 4x, or I mean even 2x if you can, which that's usually out of the question these days. But you have to burn the games really slow. You have to burn them in certain mode settings, et cetera, et cetera. But anyways, apparently they have issued an apology, and this is on IGN. It says Limited Run Games apologizes for CDR discs after fan outcry, says it's working on press disc solution. And then in quotes, we would like to apologize unreservedly to all who have purchased the game. And it just kind of goes on to talk about like some of the backlash. They even mentioned Todd's Nerd Cave in here, dude. Look at that.
Yeah. Go Todd.
Yeah. So he was here. Voltar did a tweet on it too, where he mentioned Todd's tweet, and he said, I know I talk about a lot of things on here and people might consider this drama, but please just hear me out and read until the end. This company is problematic in more ways than one, and it's becoming exhausting. At Limited Run Games charges an absolute premium for their limited releases, yet they're burning CDRs for some of the disc-based titles. Yes, you read that correctly. They're burning CDRs. LRG is charging 60 plus for 3DO games, and they're literally burning them on cheap media. How can you, and I'm paraphrasing some of this, how can you in good conscience take people's money while not even properly having these discs pressed? What's limited about a CDR backup? That's like a really key thing. This is the very definition of low effort grifting. LRG is literally ripping people off with their grifts. Please share and retweet. If nobody says anything about this, then everyone suffers. I recognize many larger YouTube channels have vested interest in shoring these people up, but I'm not going to turn a blind eye to this. As a community, you people deserve to be treated better and more fairly. And I agree. I mean, like, and I think that everybody has really kind of had this general consensus about it. Like, what the F are they thinking, you know? And how do they even justify doing something like that? Like, that just seems bonkers to me. What do you think?
So is this the first time that that's happened? It has to be, right? They've done other discs and they were not CDR based, right?
So I think there was one other one that wasn't a 3DO game, and off the top of my head, I can't think of what it is, so I can't say for sure that that's true. But I think there was one other CDR that they did, but the 3DO have been the ones that they've done the CDR games for.
Well, I think you framed. I mean, I think if they have a license and they're able to do this legally, and everyone's like, okay, we all agree this is how we're handling it. And you're good to go. And then you tell everybody, hey, this is an officially licensed game, but it's going to be on a CDR because of, whether it's cost, or I think they spun some story about it being a compatibility issue, which I can't even get into that. But as long as you're upfront about it, then sure, if people want to spend their money on that, fine. But that really sucks to have put that out there, because you're assuming. Why would you ever assume that you're going to get a CDR? Why would you think you're going to drop, what is it, $60 or whatever they charged, and you think you would assume you're getting a pressed disc for that?
Right.
That's the real miss, in my opinion. It's just not the lack of transparency around it.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, and I feel the same. I feel like people would have been less likely to buy it knowing that it was a CDR. I mean, them being upfront would have been great, but they knew, I think, that people would have been less likely to buy it. Like, I'm not buying.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can make that at home.
Right. And so I think that was like one of the major things too, that, now they're eating crap for it. And it's like, well, you kind of screwed, a lot of people over. And even though they apologize and they said that they're working on a solution or whatever, to me, that's just another like tick mark for me on LRG. Like, I stopped buying stuff from them when that whole thing went down, where they fired, I can't think of her name off the top of my head.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember seeing all that.
That really aggravated me. Like, just, I mean, like, from someone, like a customer who's looking at the company and knowing that right before that they had basically like changed management and sold part of the company, and all this weird stuff was going on, and then all of a sudden this thing happens, and it's like she didn't even do anything. Like, she was voicing her opinion. She wasn't just being discriminatory, and then, they let go of her. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to get to the politics of it, and I'm sure you don't either, but I just thought that it really put a bad taste in my mouth as far as like their ethics.
Sure. For me, I think what it was, I think early on, I liked that, okay, this is cool. There's some games that are not getting physical releases that probably deserve them, that are really cool and really, but that kind of, I don't know, you can tell me if I'm wrong, or the chat can. It seems to almost have gone away. Do you know, I don't know if you guys know, like, what, if you collect collection, right? And I always think, like, okay, they're out shopping and finding films that are in most cases they're movies that are not necessarily overly prominent, right? And then they do them justice, and they put together like a good transfer of the film and whatnot, maybe some extras they toss on, good packaging, and they sell them, and they're expensive, more expensive than normal Blu-rays, right? And I thought of limited run in that capacity early on, and I thought they were out finding these indie type games that didn't necessarily get the spotlight that they deserved,
Mm-hmm.
and they're getting a physical copy. But I think since those earlier days, it's volume based. I mean, they're just grabbing. It seems
Right.
there's so much stuff that they're just. It's like, up, we got the license for that, print it and get it out there. And it just doesn't. It seems like it's just. Well, I mean, it's like it's a physical eShop. I mean, there's just stuff there that I would never play, that I'm not interested in. And then you go down the path of, well, this edition comes with a keychain, and this one has stickers, and here's a
Right.
postcards, and it's like, oh
Yeah.
gosh, like I just feel like it got real cheap, like from a not monetary standpoint, but from they kind of drifted from what it seemed the original mission was, in my opinion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It very much makes sense. And I feel I share the same views as far as that goes. I did have, hold on one second. I have a $2 super chat from Stringer. And by the way, thank you again, Arcade Alex. And thank you, Stringer. It's pronounced Jaguar with a British accent. Jaguar. Is that with like a jag? Um, Thank you for the super chat, Stringer. Uh, but yeah, I mean, I share that sentiment of I feel like that they just started, doing it with everything. Whereas before it was like certain titles that had like special meaning or some sort of like Sturmwind, for example. I mean, I don't know if you remember when Durnick released that for Dreamcast. That was like a really cool thing because it was after the system was already dead. And then they had Sturmwind EX released on the Switch. And so they did like a physical release for that. And they did like PS4 games, like Atari-based games and stuff like that, and Doom 64. So there was some cool physical releases they did where you're like, I'd really like to have a physical copy of this, where like hardcore gamers or collectors want physical copies of games not getting, that they're only going to the eShop or whatever. And yeah, so I feel like they kind of lost sight of what the whole point of, or what their whole mission was in the beginning.
Yeah, that's really it for me. I mean, I don't know when the last time was I bought a game from them. I'll admit I bought when they did. I think was it D when they did that. They had a 3DO shirt in the shop, and I was like, oh, I'll buy a 3DO shirt, and I
Yeah.
did. So but that's the last thing I bought from them. The T-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, so and just to clarify on what I was referring to with them selling was, let's see, following a major expansion between 2018 and 2022, including branching out into publishing and retro gaming, the company was acquired by Embracer Group through its Embracer Free Mode Operative Group in September of 2022. And that's the mark I'm talking about right there, September of 2022. It seems like after that point, things started to get weird with limited run games.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, so the whole CDR thing does not bode well with me. I guess is kind of the end state of where it is. I thought it was really cool how a lot of people there were saying things about it and calling it out for being BS. Like, reason in my opinion why anybody should really not be in the mindset of, yeah, that's bullcrap. Like, give us what we paid for, especially without minus the transparency, because we all know people would have been like, I'm not buying a CDR. I'm not paying $60 for that. Like,
Oh, right.
Are the pack-ins cool? Sure, but the freaking game disc, man. Like, I want quality here.
Yep.
So what do we got going on in the? Let me see what the chat's saying over here. Are they screaming at us yet? I'm annoyed.
I think it's pretty good so far. I think we're okay.
Paul says, let's see. Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. That's a game. Limited run be ridiculous sometimes. I thought I was never going to get a package almost 2 years later. Yikes. Mike B. Limited run is terrible. Hello, people. Hello, Mike B. Let's see. Where was the other one? I'm a sucker for limited run Neo Geo games when they come with a shock box, but haven't, those are pretty cool, but haven't bought a lot from them. Otherwise, I prefer to go through Pix and Love. You know where another cool place, kind of like hidden move is that people don't know about is Play Asia. Because they do like the regional physical releases that we don't get, so you can get physical releases that way too, and they're like cheap. Play Asia is like super cheap, which is cool. Jason says, when Embracer Group touches you, your stuff gets cheapened and people get laid off. $9.99 super chat. Ezekiel, what's up? Hey Jade and Scarlett, you both are amazing content creators. Love you both. Thank you so much, my friend. Good to see you in here. Appreciate the super chat very much and the channel support. Nice to see you stop by. By the way, Ezekiel, keep your eyes peeled in the next week or two, because there's going to be something coming your way. Going to be cool. Let me scroll back up here and see. There's Stringer. $65 coasters. Yeah, pretty much. I missed the 3DO console era. Some people missed it and they were even there. That's the crazy part about the 3DO. Voltar and Mad Little Pixel kicked up a dust storm. Yeah.
Voltar is in the chat.
He is? I didn't even see him come in here.
Yeah, he just popped up. You were reading his tweets and he showed up.
You all should look into Limited TU. Wait, Play Asia lost my Sonic Superstars? Oh, okay. That's crappy that they gave you a hard time about that, Toxin. Jerry Voluptuous, thank you for the $9.99 super chat. He said what Ezekiel said. Thank you very much for the support. And then Voltar says, limited run Doug. There's some very unsettling things about that guy, and that's all I'm going to say. Yeah, well, there's some unsettling things about limited run. I don't know if you were in here when we first started talking about him, Voltar, but we were just saying basically that in September of 2022, that's kind of like when everything started going not as great with limited run. Or maybe just a little bit before that. Sorry for all the typos. I'm nude in the bath in real time.
I mean,
I 100% believe it. The only thing that I'm surprised about is that you're not in there soldering something. Oh, thank you, Messiah, for gifting those memberships. He loves to do that. I do like picking up LRG games once in a while, especially re-releases of games that are hundreds of dollars. But they've been adding too much trash filler. Yeah. You know what I really want a physical release of? 19.8x on the Switch, and I think Steam, but on the Switch. Have you seen that, Joe?
It did cut out a little bit. What is it that you want a copy of?
It's called 19.8x. So 198x, and it's on the Switch and Steam.
No, I don't know what that is.
Oh my god, dude! It's you got to watch the trailer for it after we're done on this live. Like it's really cool. Let's see.
What type of game is it?
It's like a side scroller 16-bit style game. But it's modern, and it basically, the way the story is told, because it has a cool story that goes with it, and it's got great music, And the way the story is told is you go through like basically all of the like coolest platforms that we played, you know, in the 90s and late 80s, like shmups and shoot 'em ups and
Okay.
yeah, and like Ninja and stuff like. So it goes through all these side scroller or top down platforms, and that's the way that like you get through the game. It's really cool. Yeah. So
Like it.
you got to check
I'll
it
check
out.
it out. Yeah.
Voltar says, I just got here 5 minutes ago. I'm enjoying the stream. Nice. I'm assuming you're talking about my stream and not like a stream that's going on in your bathtub. Sorry. I can't help myself sometimes. All right. So yeah, limited run. Bad move, limited run, bad form, as a Captain Hook would say. And don't ever do that again. Don't ever release anything as a package and charge people for it when it's got like CDRs in it, like non-press CDs that don't even work. Like people weren't even able to get them to play on their freaking 3DOs, man. Like that's just, it's whack. It's whack. Before I forget, Joe. So I told you before the show I've been working on these Neo Geo.
All right.
Well, not Neo Geo, but Vulx, Astro City art packages that I'm doing for marquee cards. And I made this one. And I thought Joe would probably think this one's cool. I haven't finished it yet. It's just this.
Oh yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So.
It's like female Terry on there too.
Yep.
I like it.
But yeah, so I'm working on a couple different ones for Neo Geo and stuff. What do you run in your Vulx? Like, do you run like real hardware in there, or do you run like a Mister?
So the Vulx runs TID Type X3,
Okay.
which is really, I mean, it's a PC, and then there's a multi-image for it that it has a host of games on it. All the TID Type X, X2, X3 games. Right. There's some other stuff, and you can launch TechnoParrot through the multi as well. So anything that TechnoParrot runs can be launched then as well. So that's pretty much, it's all mostly modern stuff that's running off of the Vulx.
Yeah.
There's some games that were added to that image that were that are older, like 90s stuff, but I just have all that stuff hidden. I primarily just play the newer stuff on that.
The crazy thing about TID Type X as a platform is it's, you know, essentially a PC platform, so it really crosses the border of like emulation versus real hardware, and it doesn't require you to have like one specific set of hardware. And I was kind of like blown away by that when I realized how it actually worked and started playing with it, because I only started playing with TID Type X I think like 6 months ago or something, but it's really neat, and it's a neat way to play those games.
Yeah, and the hardware itself, I think it's been a while since I've done it, but I think there's a firmware that you can get to put on the X3 anyway, and then it basically allows you to use any video card, so you can keep upgrading the video card on it if you need to. Mm-hmm. And then you just, like, Street Fighter 5 runs on it. I haven't tried 6, but I might be pushing it a bit. But yeah, it's cool that you can upgrade the video card, because that was kind of like the thing that was holding you back a little bit for some of the newer stuff that was coming out. And now it's like you said, it's just basically a PC. You have that fast IO interface for the controls, and you're off and running. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. Wait, Voltar says, I'm here via my browser because for whatever reason the app is sucking tonight. See, there is weird stuff going on with YouTube. I don't know what it is. But it has randomly just been sucking. And I don't know, man. It must be the solar flares or something. Jason says LRG HQ is nearby me. I have often picked things up directly from them. Oh, that's kind of cool. Be able to have that access. P-Dub's Arcade Loft is here. Nice to see Scarlet Sprites. He has a great YouTube channel. He does. He does. Happy birthday. It's your birthday today, Patrick. Well, you know, if you come on my channel, if you come on my live when it's your birthday, I have to sing happy birthday to you. So, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Mr. P-Dub's Arcade Loft. Happy birthday to you. Nipple rub. Happy birthday, Patrick. So yeah. I don't know about the whole sorry, the whole TID Type X thing.
Yeah.
I do know, but what I was going to say is that it actually runs on like a mini PC setup too. So, I mean, pretty much any PC that's powerful enough to run the hardware, but it's cross compatible with AMD or Intel. I think the most important thing is your graphics card, but a lot of these devs have made, like Technoparrot guys, for example, have made like patches for the AMD graphics cards that just like fix whatever issues it would have with it. So it's very cool, very versatile platform. And it doesn't take much to run it though, is what I was going to say. As far as like PC power, obviously you can't really use a single board computer. I mean, if we're talking about like Pis and stuff, which I hate, right. I hate Pis. I'm sorry, sue me, but I cannot stand Raspberry Pis. They were cool for what they were when they first came out for $20, but they're just overpriced now, in my opinion. I mean, well, okay, you've got like Mister. I guess that's an SBC, right? But that, or is it just an FPGA?
I got my Pi right here. Like, come on.
What is it? A decoration now, or?
I mean, it's not being used. It's just sitting there. Yeah, that's a 4. The 4 runs Atomic Wave and Naomi games pretty well. So that's why I was fooling around with that. I just had it, and it's quick setup to boot and play stuff on a television.
Yeah, it does, not bad. And I know you're not a huge well, I know you don't like Arcade 1UP, but the last Street Fighter cab that they released, the board on there was, I mean, it's an SBC board, but it ran or runs Atomic Wave, Dreamcast, Naomi, and what was the other thing? I think you can run like PlayStation 1. And so I was pretty impressed with that, because I mean, like, you know, getting them now versus back when they first came out and being able to just like pop an SD card in there and bypass the Android thing was kind of a cool deal. But yeah, I wouldn't spend money on any of those SBCs anymore. Definitely go mini PC. P-Dub says, agreed, I'm over the Pi era PC mods all the way. Heck yeah. Twisted Gaming TV, I like Blueberry Pi. Any Blackberry Cobbler. Disclosure, Jade works for A1UP. That's right, I'm the community rep. I suck Scarlet Sprites in here. Okay, so we talked about 3DO, Neo Geo, and the whole limited run thing. And I was wondering, back to the convenience thing, what is like your favorite modern solution right now, like your go-to if you want to play like whatever platform, but just your go-to that you're going to be able to sit down, plug in, turn on, and just get right into whatever game that you want to play with an arcade stick or whatever?
Yeah. So are you talking about like an all-in-one solution, or are you just saying?
I guess I'm just saying, I mean, all-in-one can count, but I'm saying like your personal go-to right now that you're really enjoying.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, I mean, no surprise. It's Neo Geo. I got a SD Pro, and I actually got that for my arcade cabinet because I was I was tired of, again, it's a convenience thing, right? Like this is
Mhm.
how lazy we've become. My Neo Geo collection is on the second floor of the house, and the Neo Geo cabinet's in the basement. And so when I want to switch games out, I got to go all the way upstairs, and I got to pick out the games I want. And I got to carry them downstairs. I got to switch the cartridges out, right? So I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna get an SD Pro and pop that, a Neo SD Pro, and pop that in. But instead of making its way to the basement, I was fooling around with it in my consoleized MVS upstairs, and I have it just stuck in there, and there's no need for it because the whole rack of MVS games is right behind me. All I gotta do is
Right.
turn around and grab whatever game, but that's just like sitting there. So I've been fooling with that, and that's what I've been playing with. Probably the last 2 weekends the most. Just Metal Slug 3, League Bowling. I played Robo Army this week. I played through all of that. I was playing Mutation Nation last night. My wife was like what is this? Like what are you playing? Is this a game? Is this game fun? She's
Vile.
like, because it doesn't look like a lot of fun. I'm like, well, it's just like a beat 'em up. She's like, it's just
Yeah.
the same thing over and over again. I'm like, well, that's kind of, yeah, you're not wrong. But that's what I've been playing a lot of lately. Um, I also have actually, I think you know this because we were on that whole kick of playing different 3D fighters from Dreamcast, and I
Mm.
have the Soul Calibur board plugged into my Super Gun upstairs too. So
Oh, nice.
that's so I'm still turning that on um, and running that. Yeah, I primarily Neo Geo, some arcade boards upstairs. Oh, this is weird to say, but every night I've been playing a game of NBA 2K3. 2K3, not 2K13 or 2K23,
Yeah.
2K3, with Iverson on the cover. I played that a lot in college, and I got a GameCube loader for my GameCube, and I went through this whole thing a couple months ago where we were talking about the 3DO earlier, and with the GameCube, same thing. I'm like, okay, ODEs for everything. Like everything's just getting an ODE. Toss it all in. Dreamcast, you get one too, and so I just want to be able to turn the console on, pick a game, and go without having to dig for the game. So I've been playing a lot of yeah. I invested in the GC loader for GameCube and have been playing NBA 2K3, but I don't know. It's just something quick. It's not a big time investment. Don't have to learn anything. One game and you're out. And so yeah, Neo Geo, GameCube, and Soul Calibur. That's pretty much where I've been the last couple weeks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. That Soul Calibur board, I'd like to get my hands on one. And I've seen a couple good prices, but they usually go and then I forget about it. But
Yeah.
because I have Soul Edge, Tekken 1, 2, and Tekken Tag. And Tekken Tag was
Yep.
basically like 3.5, so I'm like, I don't really need Tekken 3.
I have
Um,
three. I would like to trade it for tag.
oh really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got a really good deal. God, I think I got my tag board off Clove. Steve Lady sent me
Oh,
like
yeah.
a link or something like that. So, um, but yeah, those Namco System 11, System 12 boards, they're all right. I am so sorry about that.
Oh, no worries.
I it's like the whole internet just like bottomed out at my house. Oh my god, that was crazy.
Yeah, I lost you right after you mentioned you were talking about the Namco boards, I think.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if we're even cuz it says I'm still streaming, but let me see if I can pull this up. God dang. Well, it still shows that we're live. Oh yeah. All right, we're back up. Oh my god. Hello chat. Thank you. Sorry about that. Um well, if you were in here, I guess you heard me say pretty much the internet just bottomed out. Let me see if I can get the active chat pulled back up in here real quick, and we will get back on to what we were talking about. Thank you for your patience. Sorry for that. I don't know if it's like my router or if it's my my antenna, but I'm gonna have to buy a new one because I can't have this happening. Let's see. Chatty chatty chat. Here we go. Or if it's my shush. All right, pop out chat. And we're back. You both are live? Oh, okay. Like we're back in here. Okay, cool, cool. All right. That was interesting. So the chat in here needs to be replaced as well. Chat scroll. Okay. All right. So we were talking about Namco System 12 boards, 11 boards, and they're cool. And then the internet took a dump on me. But I guess the next, the other thing I kind of wanted to move into, because I was talking about like what's your go-to right now, is how have your views like over the last 3 years, how much do you think your views have shifted on you know, how you like to play games, or what you find to be I don't know if acceptable is the right word, but like a way that maybe you didn't like playing games before via emulation or something, and like now you find it to be more acceptable because of convenience or whatever. But what do you think some of the biggest ways that you've adapted to modern gaming when it comes to retro stuff? Like that you wouldn't have done 3 years ago.
Yeah. I think having like, you know, talking about like Mister and having an all-in-one at like an FPGA solution like that, like it's definitely, you know, it's somewhat similar to like a Pi in that you know, we were talking about that, and similar in the aspect of you have all of these possibilities and systems thrown onto one device. That's what I'm saying. The comparison is obviously not the same type of hardware, but so I just, yeah, like a Pi. I never really, I don't know. It always seemed to me like every time I fooled with one, there was something that needed configured, or something went wrong with it, or it just, I don't know. It's something felt off. I don't know. I never really warmed up to a Pi the way I did, and so when Mister became a thing and was gaining traction, I think I thought of it in the same way. I'm like, it's another thing I don't need to manage. Like I don't want this, because I don't want to have to, you know, prepare an SD card. I don't want to have to load all these ROMs up. I don't want to have to do updates. Don't want to have to configure a control. I don't want to do any of that. But then I got it, and I realized like it's actually, in my opinion, I feel like it's easier. I feel like it's a lot easier than a Pi. It doesn't have like all these bloated interfaces. It's just pretty much simple. Fire up the core you want. You know, the controller, sure, there's some configuration, but it's usually pretty straightforward. And once you do it, it's set and you're good to go for future runs on it. And I mean, I really love it. Like it's really been, literally a game changer for me. I use it all the time. I do still have, you know, we were talking about Neo Geo, and I of course still have consoles hooked up, and for certain things like Neo Geo, or you know, I'm thinking even Nintendo from time to time, I'll turn on my top loader. Certain things like that I'll play just straight up pure off of the original console.
Hmm.
But for the most part, if I'm upstairs and it's just like I've got like an hour, which is rare anymore, I'll just turn the mister on. Like, it's just so much easier because it's just so convenient.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I use the mini PC as my all-in-one setup, and I'm running RetroBat
Yeah.
on that. So it's a combination of it's using RetroArch, which I know, and I used to be one of
Hmm.
these people who doesn't really like RetroArch, or who didn't really like it. But it's gotten so versatile now that it's a lot more plug and play. It's a lot easier to use, and RetroBat is literally like it just you Windows boots up and then RetroBat auto starts on its own. So you boot right into the emulation station setup, and you can run
Yeah.
all the Windows emulators as well. So you're not just limited to RetroArch. And there's so many configuration profiles that you can do now with controllers, latency, and all this other stuff, and just have it set up to where once you boot into your preferred platform, like you're good to go. I mean, you're getting a pretty close experience to what it would be to the real thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
With some cool effects like obviously overlays and stuff like that, that are nice. But of course, you have a Tink 4K, so that's kind of a really neat advantage to have that probably many other people don't have, is because the Tink 4K gives you the opportunity not only to upscale but to use like realistic overlays that are kind of accurate to like CRTs and stuff like that, right? And what's your experience been like with that?
Yeah.
I did watch your video on
With
it.
the Tink 4K.
Yeah, but I mean like
Yeah,
ongoing, how's it been?
yeah, I mean it's been great. I actually just Mike cranks out firmware updates for that thing. It seems like, for a while there it was like every other day. And so it had been a while since like checked that. And so this weekend I was like, "Oh, I'm way behind again." So I just upgraded the firmware on that and then was fooling around with it. It's great for Supergun stuff. I mean that was one of the things I talked about in the video that I did. I tried to focus mostly on a lot of arcade things because of just not rare, but obscure off spec refresh rates that certain games have, and so you weren't always able to, with the old 5X and
Yeah.
some other scalers, you weren't always able to get those games to sync up and then put a signal out using a CRT with your Supergun setup. I know some of the it's escaping me, the scaler that the original scaler that everybody was using. I'm having a child running around, but I know some of that stuff was solved, but um, for the most part, a lot of scalers that people have access to currently until the 4K came out, even Mike's own 5X struggled with some of those boards. A lot of the midway stuff that has obscure refresh rates and whatnot. So that's been really great just to know that you can plug anything in and go. Setting up profiles, that's not really so. We're talking about convenience. I really, there's a few profiles that I've created for myself for Sega Model 2 and Model 3 hardware, the PGM games, and then I've done a few others. But for the most part, I pretty much just wait and see like what other people come up with after
Yeah.
they fooled and tinkered with stuff, because I don't have time for that stuff. I just don't. I like being able just to plug in and play. I'm really not. I know it's funny because the arcade stuff, restoring a machine to me is different. Like that's kind of like a labor of love. You're going through and getting a piece of history back. But for me going in, I just I see the posts and stuff all the time on Twitter and other social media, and these people, like, I'm always like impressed, like the stuff they come up with. And but just like for me, like to take the time to tinker and come up with different mask settings and crop, it's unbelievable. Like I do not have the time to do that kind of stuff, nor do I care all that much. But if somebody does all the work for me on the front end for those profiles, like I'll use them. But really, the beauty of the Tink 4K, obviously for me, has been obviously the 4K output, and then it's ridiculous compatibility with all of the arcade boards that I have. I had a conversation in a group chat on Twitter a couple weeks ago. Somebody was like on the fence about 5X versus 4K, and really, Mike himself would say like the 5X is probably fine for the majority of people if you're not fooling around with some obscure things, or you're not looking to over tweak settings, or even like the arcade stuff. Like if that's not your thing, the 5X is fantastic, and so you could save a lot of money and just grab that if you want to. But I love the 4K, because of the arcade stuff, and that's pretty much what I've been doing with it primarily.
Yeah, it's been enticing to look at. I feel like for me, I'll probably wait a little bit longer because most of my arcade hardware, like most of it stays in my garage. Aside from like what I would bring into if I wanted to put it in like my multicade. But I don't have like a cool setup like you have, where you have like the super gun, and it's kind of just like set up for you to be able to plug different boards into it and stuff like that. And that's something that I'd like to work on. I'll probably get there eventually, but by the time that I get there, there'll probably be something newer than the 4K, and I'll be like, oh look, the 4K is cheaper now, and I'll just play with it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think because I am such like a couch potato when it comes to like my all-in-one solution, that I'm just like, I'm kind of good with just using emulation for now. I mean, you can get the timings pretty close, and I think you're always gonna notice like a difference when you are, playing at an actual like arcade machine that's plugged into a JAMA harness and it's on a CRT. Like anybody who's been doing it for long enough is going to notice a slight difference. But the real question is like, does it really affect your experience playing the game that much to where it's like, oh, this isn't fun? And for me, the answer is no.
Yeah.
I just want to be able to play the game and play it correctly. So as long as I'm within maybe like 5% of that, like I'm pretty good. Like I'm kind of picky when it comes to like graphical glitches and stuff like that, because that's like artifact stuff that like just that aggravates me. I don't know why, but it's more about like timing and obviously like the big picture. So but
I totally agree with you. There's something about actual CRT original board in an arcade, like it feels different, but you can get yourself pretty close, outside of that with that. But and you're right. People who have especially with certain games, if you are just married to that and know what it feels like in an arcade setting on a CRT, and then you switch over to any other type of setup, it does feel a little bit different. It just does. On an LCD, with some type of scaler or emulation for that matter, it just feels different. But you're right. Like how much if you're not training for some type of competition, does it really matter? I'm 45 years old at this point. Like I just want to have some fun before I go to bed at night.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I'm like, give me a little bit of authenticity and a nice big screen to play it on, and I won't complain too much. So I think for me, it's definitely evolved in the sense of, I'm more willing to just kind of enjoy the experience, because I like playing the games. I love, and it's like you said, the whole restoration thing is a completely separate beast. To me, that's like has a historical value to it. You don't mess with that. You know what I mean? Like if you're
Yep.
restoring arcades, you don't mess with the historical value of what you're doing. And that I believe being true to. If it's something in your own personal collection, can you do I believe that you can compromise and like do things differently? Sure. I mean, hey, if you want to swap in an LCD screen on one of your arcades, but it's because you want to keep the tube TV from, blowing out, you want to preserve it because you just want to play the crap out of that game or whatever. I don't think there's anything, I don't see anything wrong with that. But if you're like, if you're sending like an arcade back into the wild, I would always say I would hope that it was restored to the most purest of quality, before it goes back into the wild. And let me see what's. I like playing the games on original hardware. Too fun, yeah. And here's another funny thing about original hardware, though, when people say this. When we played games in the arcade, and even when I go out and play, like on my HS5, for example, those joysticks are rebuilt HAP joysticks. Like I rebuilt them myself. So they're very broken in feeling. You know what I mean? And it's like there's a huge difference between getting on a broken in HAP joystick and playing the game very well. Like it's very responsive. And then moving over to another machine that has like brand new ILs in it, which are going to feel more stiff and kind of change the way the game feels. But you still kind of have that instant response, and then you go inside and I play something on like my multicade. And then I'm kind of like, oh, it does seem like there's a little bit of a difference in timing,
Mm-hmm.
So it's, but those hardware aspects, those little hardware aspects, like broken in joysticks, broken in buttons that have been smashed, to bits, who knows how many times, make such a difference in the feeling of playing on full size arcade machines too. That's just kind of my 2 cents on some of the things that I guess change the dynamic feeling of it. So yeah. Okay, so we're kind of getting towards the end here, and I appreciate, again, your patience, and sorry about the drops, chat and Joe, but I had an idea, chat, and my idea was that I wanted to send Joe some of the worst comments that I've seen people leave about me and have him read them. So I'm gonna send you one comment at a time, and you get to read it, and then
Great.
So I think I've got like, let me see, 1, 2, 3, like 7 of them here, but they're not like super long. So, but this is a mix of comments that I've gotten on YouTube and Twitter, and I thought it would be hilarious because I laugh at these when I read them. Like people crack me up, dude. Like how serious people get and stuff. Okay, I'm kind of moving. Let me see if I can. Oh, it's making me adjust the picture. All right, well, here you go. I'm gonna send it to you in the chat. Ready?
Yes.
Comment number 1 coming through.
Gosh, I hope I can find it in the chat. Hang on.
Just let me know when you're good, and I'll send it through.
Go ahead and send it.
Okay.
I just want to see if I can find it.
Skype chat, right? Yeah.
It says, please do not post anything like this again! Exclamation mark.
Yeah. All right. That's just the number 1 comment, though. It's not really, Let's go to number 2. Let's see what we got.
Dog shit content. Never post again.
We're slowly building up to good things here, people. All right.
Another one here. Oof. Why are you making me read these? This is like Impractical Jokers. Like, you feed me stuff I have to say. Nice Adam's apple, she lion. I'm sorry.
Oh my
I want to
god.
say
It's okay. We're buddies. This is funny. All right, go ahead.
you are worthless than the dog shit on the sidewalk. Jesus. My
Oh.
God.
All right. You're going to like this one.
Why? Why are you making me read these? This is a dude, LMAOO.
Oh,
Fucking people.
bless your heart.
The guy's. Oh my God.
All right, 2 more to go. This is well, 1
All
more
right.
after this.
Oh my God. Fuck you and your pointless AI generated bullshit, you talentless opportunist fuck.
The anger in that one is what's.
It's very angry.
Oh, it's so
There's
angry.
6 likes. 6 people like that too. 6 people are like, yeah, I'm on board with this.
Right, right. This one's got 113 likes. This is here you go.
Oh my God. Not only are you an AI geek, you also don't even know what stereo audio channels are, apparently. Be ashamed of who you are.
Oh, that's so good. That's
and then the emoji for that person is a gun to their head, by the way.
right.
Which is lovely.
Oh my God. Be ashamed of who you are. That was like the
Because you don't know what stereo audio channels are.
it cracks me up how people like, figure you out and like then figure you out in one comment and just narrow you down to that. It's so funny. I think you said something. One of the funny ones that you got was like somebody called you Johnny Knoxville or something.
Oh
on
yeah,
crack.
That was somebody. It said it had nothing to do with the video. It was you look like Johnny Knox, a crackhead Johnny Knoxville. I kind of thought it was funny, to be honest.
Yeah. I totally laugh at all the bad comments that I get. Unless it's like somebody that I know where then I would actually be like, oh, how dare you,
Oh yeah.
But like just the people just leaving like really crappy comments, I'm like, this is funny. So yeah, thank you for reading those because that was hilarious.
Yes, thank you for making me.
You're a good sport. Sport. So chat, let's see, where are we at? Okay, well, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to ask. We'll do like maybe like 5 minutes to ask questions. And I feel like we hit a lot of good stuff, Joe. Like
we have
a lot of good talking points tonight. Stringer did a $2 super chat, tongue tied. Have him read, but I sold the NBA Jam this morning.
I can say that. I mean, but I sold the NBA Jam this morning.
You sold it? Did you actually sell it?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay.
I have. So my NBA Jam is set up in my open ice cabinet right now, which is fun. It's nice.
Oh, cool.
So I won't be getting rid of that. That was like a holy grail and a whole ordeal to go through. I'm not getting rid of the open ice cab or NBA Jam.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. But you mean the NBA Jam PCB that's in there, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
That's correct. Yeah.
Gotcha. Coolio. Yeah, you did a really good job on that open ice. You took your time on that thing too.
It took forever. I mean, well, again, like it's so hard to find the time and even just to get everything out. Like even if you have like an hour, it's like, well, I'll probably be able to stir paint and, maybe put T-molding on one side of thing, and then I'll be able to put everything away and go to bed.
Right.
That's what makes it hard. I'm gonna have to take some time off this summer to work on stuff.
Oh my God, that's what I say every day.
And then you don't do it though, right?
No, well, because
No,
you just don't have to. You don't find the
I
time.
know.
It's even
I
like,
know.
ugh, gosh. Well, see, but the good thing is though, now my kids are all at the age where they can go visit their grandparents in the summer. So this last summer, I actually had 2 weeks off, and then this summer, I think I'm gonna have about 2 weeks off. When I say 2 weeks off, I mean like with no kids. So that's like a, if you don't have any kids, then like you have way more free time, right? You time.
Right. Right. Yeah,
So
for sure. So Stringer brought that. I actually didn't. I wasn't sure why he had me reading that, and and he went into it. He said the old lady sold the NBA Jam that I was playing. I forgot all about that. He's right. Like I needed an NBA Jam cabinet for open ice, and um, yeah, I have been talking to this person about going to pick it up, and she sold it like out from under me. Like we had arranged a time
oh,
and everything, and she just sold it. And I was like, oh my gosh. Then I was back looking for an NBA Jam cab um, until I found one in a warehouse. Didn't have a control panel, but that didn't matter. So, anyways, it all worked out in the end. But yeah, I totally forgot about that until he brought that up.
Stringer's like Mr. Remember things in chat. He's always bringing up.
That's wild because I forgot about that. Now I got
um,
PTSD from that whole
this is a good
brokering of that.
This is a good question, but before I do it, I'm going to read what Chris says here. I'm single and never in any relationship, so I'm fine. He's like, I'm blissful. Um, Messiah Oneness Gaming says, are you interested in the Unico Blast Scarlet Sprites? And that's a good question. What do you think about the Unico Blast, Candy Blast?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's cool for sure. It's wired for JAMA. I think that I have, it's funny. I go back to like some of the Mr. Cade stuff when that group was working on that, and some of the concerns that we were having about people plugging in, people that maybe didn't necessarily know a whole lot about arcades, and we're buying that and we're gonna just plug it in, and it's like, oh gosh, voltages. And so I mean, that would be my only concern with it. But look, it's a cabinet that you can buy today. That I think I don't know what they cost. I don't remember.
I think
but
about $12.99 with 150 in
yeah,
shipping. So it's really not bad at all.
yeah. So yeah, I think that's cool for somebody that might. I mean, I saw some videos that I think it's Chris Vera. He's posting. He has like a test unit. I think he's running stuff on, and
Yeah.
I think that's great. Like if people want it, and a modern option, something new, they don't have to clean or or try to fix up, and have at it. It's probably not something that I'd be interested. Like I'm not gonna grab that.
You already have an Astro City, don't you?
I do. I have an Astro City, which I think I'm going to convert to a vertical setup this summer. I'm going to just spin, which isn't a big deal. I'm going to spin the monitor, but yeah, like I think that's cool. Chris was talking about, I think, just it being a little bit more compact, lightweight, but it still is wired for JAMA, so people could get into collecting boards if they wanted to, which is cool because it opens up the hobby for other people if they're interested.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I like the fact that the screen rotates and that you have the option for X input and JAMA right there, and JVS, right? And yeah, the power voltage stuff like that. I mean, I just assume like you're going to go with whatever board setup you're running. Like I mean, if you're running, like, for example, like Naomi, you're going to be running like more of the PC style PSU versus like System 11, for example. You'd be running the older 240 120 style PSUs with like the screw in wiring.
Yeah, I don't know what the power setup looks like in the Unico. I guess that is, I don't know, like what I don't.
Oh, I
you have
don't.
to
I
put
don't
your own
think.
in,
Yeah,
or-
yeah. I don't think that it has like a pre-designated power
Okay.
supply in there. I mean, it just comes basically. The only thing that's, I think, ready, from my understanding, is like the inputs to the controllers are already wired in there. So you should be able to, I think, plug in like JAMA or USB. But don't quote me on that. I just know that from what I've seen, like they're pre-wired though.
Yeah.
So yeah, it should be fairly simple, but definitely, I mean, the power supply side of things would probably be the most challenging part for anybody just walking into it. Although you don't have to worry about the transformer or anything, because you're just running. a standard flat panel, pretty much. So,
Yeah.
what turns you off to it? Wait, is that to sprites, Mensa? Stringer says, so honestly, how many 1-ups do you have in that secret storage unit? Secret storage unit? Is there something you're not telling us, Joe? I don't even know.
No,
Are you talking to me,
I
Stringer?
might need to.
Because I'm the one who's always dorking around with my leftover 1-ups.
Yeah. Oh, what's turning me off to the Unico Blast? Is that what the question is?
He's getting feedback. Yeah, did you say there was anything turning you off to it aside from already owning a Astro?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think like it doesn't, for me, it doesn't solve any problem for me. Like I that's probably worded wrong, but my bases are covered. I don't really have a need for it, I guess is a better way of saying it.
Yeah, like for me, because I don't have an Astro, and the candy cabs that are out here, they want like $3,000 for them, and they're beat the F up.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not paying $3,000 for a beat up ass candy cab. Sorry. I'm just not. And I don't think anybody who collects those would pay $3,000, shell out $3,000 for one of those.
That's wild to me that those have gotten that expensive. When I bought my Astro and my Blast, so I couldn't decide which of the two I wanted, and the guy who I bought them from said he had some type of thing with shipping. I don't. He basically said I can ship them to you, two of them to you, for almost the same cost as one if I pallet them both back to back and whatever. I was like, oh gosh, I don't really want to spend money to buy two of them, but I guess I will because of that or whatever, right? But at the time, I paid $800 for the Astro and $800 for the Blast. So I paid $1,600 for those two machines. And now, like you're saying, it's $3,000 just for a Blast.
Oh yeah.
It's wild. It's wild. Like, what happened?
Well, the thing is too, and by the way, Stringer said you're a closet 1-up lover.
Oh my gosh.
But it is wild, and the crazy thing is that's for an Astro. I mean, a Blast is probably actually would cost more. Or what's the other one? The blue one. There's Astro, Blast, and then there's like one that has like blue graphics on the side. It's a little bit more squarey looking. But those are going for around like 28 to 32 as well. And then, I mean, don't even like, if you find one of the Naomi ones, like those things are going for like $4,000 or $5,000, which is crazy. I mean, I don't know. But I think it's because people have become more aware of it. So even with the economy kind of being in a slump, people are still asking like astronomical prices for those things, you know? And I'm like, I feel like a lot of these people that are putting these on the market just see it as like a money thing. They don't actually know what the collector's market is like.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind
I'm
of
trying to pull up to see what on Ground Zero what he was charging for current stock that he has. I'm trying to see. He's got he has a Blast. It's 2,300 for the Blast, 2,300 for a new Astro City, 2,300 for an Astro City, new Versus City 3,800, and a Versus City 3,800. So that's
but shipping.
But that's still, I mean, well, yeah. Then you factor in shipping for any of that, unless you're going to drive to. I think he's in North Carolina. Unless you're going to drive there to pick it up. Yeah. Hyper Neo 29, 2,850. New Net City 2,300. Yeah. I mean, even still, like $800. It was like 800. Even these prices, which I think are probably fair at, or at least market value, depending on how you feel about that.
Are they in good condition?
Yeah, his stuff usually is in pretty good condition.
Okay, well that's not as bad.
I got my Vulx from him, and it was pristine. It was clean, and I mean, he was really proud of it too. He was messaging me after he knew I had signed for it and was asking. He's like, "Yeah," and just he was glowing about it. And I've seen some of his videos and pics and stuff, and he's really good about fixing things if he sees that there's problems, recapping monitors and making everything look sharp. And it's not because that happens a lot in the arcade world where you see people just trying to sell dusty
Oh yeah.
crap that they think is they think is worth, and it probably is still worth a lot, but they don't even bother to like wipe it down. And this guy goes through everything and makes sure it's working before he ships it out. And then he's like, well, what questions do you have? You know, like, is there anything I can, you know, he's just a good guy. So I would recommend Ground Zero for if anybody's looking to buy candy cabs.
Yeah, that's cool. So out here, there's somebody who sells them for around that price, but a little bit more. But they're like beat up. So I want to say closer to like
Yeah.
2,800, 2,500. And I mean, when I say beat up, I mean like dents, scratches, no artwork or like pieces are like broken off. The control panel is like, I mean, they're not working basically. And they look like they've been sitting in like a rat infested junkyard. And he's asking, 23, 25, 2,800 for these things. And I'm like, dude, you're high. You're as high as a giraffe's ass if you think that any collector in their right mind would pay that much for one of those. I have thought though that the last thing I'll say about it, the Unico Blast though, is like a very viable option for people who want the candy format and in a more modern form. So I think the potential for those to be something really cool and kind of unique is definitely there, and it's a good offering to people who want to play the games on something that's similar to the original hardware, so to speak.
Yeah.
But for $1,200, $1,400 with a rotating screen, I feel like it's kind of hard to argue with that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Not bad. Let's see. I didn't hear how much is a full Neo Geo collection. How much is a full Neo Geo collection worth?
I get asked that every now and then, and I don't even really know, to be honest. Somebody went through and like calculated one time on Twitter the amount of money I spent on the shock boxes for them, which it was funny, but at the same time I was like, yeah, I didn't need that. I didn't need to see that dollar amount out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that, and then I have no idea how much some of those have appreciated over time. I mean,
Wait, you have AES or MVS full collection?
I have a full MVS collection.
Okay.
Including the damn quiz games and mahjong games.
Mahjong. Oh my god.
I bought them just because somebody put them up on Yahoo auctions, and it was all of them. And I was like, well, I'm all in on this collection. I'm just gonna grab them. And I had just moved too, and I spent a shit ton of money. Oops, sorry, I didn't know if I can say that on your podcast.
No, yeah, you're good.
Sorry. I just spent a lot of money on moving, and I was like, well, what's another, couple $100 here? I'll just, if I'm all in on this collection and I'm serious, I'm just going to get them. And I mean, it's such a waste, honestly. Like, it's just it's collecting for the sake of saying you have a full collection, and I'll own that. I will 100% own that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I fired them up from time. I don't know how to play Mahjong. I don't even know how to play Mahjong. The quiz games are kind of funny. You can play them with like Google Translate now. Like, you can hold your phone up and see, so that's kind of fun.
Yeah.
At the time, I wasn't doing that, but yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. We talked all the way around. I don't know. I know we probably don't even have time to get into this, but I have been thinking.
No, go ahead.
With the arcade machines downstairs, some of the boards I've got, obviously the MVS, I'm like, I probably should get some type of insurance at some point for all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So I need to like go through and catalog and break out what I think it's worth, and then do that. I also bought my first pinball machine. So it's like if this all if there's a fire, I will never financially recover. I will never. Like
I'm
it's
laughing,
out.
but it's like not funny. I'm just laughing because it's so true.
Well, and some of the stuff like we were talking about earlier when we started, like I
Hmm.
bought back in what 2006, 7, like so to go out and buy that same stuff now, I really need to catalog and figure out like what market value is today for a lot of the stuff that I own.
Yeah. It is an interesting question. I mean, I'm just looking around on online right now, and I don't like nothing's popping out at me that says this is probably like because I mean most of these cartridges are going for on average 100 to $400 depending on what game it is. So
Yeah.
how many games are there in the MVS
Oh
collection? What
gosh,
is it,
I was
100 and
it's like 146 or 147, I think. And then I've got like a couple additional like semi-official game like V-liners in there. Try to think. I think there's a Ghost Lop cart and I think I have an Ironclad cart too, which never was
mm,
officially out on MVS. So there's some other there's probably like 150 or plus carts that I have. All of the officials covered, and then some other random stuff in there mixed in that, like gambling games or, um, yeah.
well, if we averaged each game out to $300, which might be a fair assessment, complete, with a shock box or whatever. If we
Yeah.
average each game out to $300 out of 146 games, it's going to be 43,000. So basically $44,000 is the value of that.
I gotta get it. I gotta
Yeah,
get,
you need
yeah,
insurance now.
I gotta get insurance on that.
Yesterday. Um, so yeah, I mean, and then, gosh, just think of the other stuff that you have that's worth $500 a pop.
Oh
Um,
yeah, like we were talking about Killer Instinct the other day, like because I'm trying to wrap that cabinet up, and I'm like, I said, this is now like a $1,000 board to put inside this cabinet.
yeah.
Like that's just crazy. Like to
Hmm.
me that's where that has gone.
That's just the board too. I mean, if you can find like source a working hard drive, and I mean those hard drives are going for easily like a couple hundred, $500, something like that. I think
Yeah. Yep.
that's crazy. I traded all my
I
cabs.
saw that. I wasn't gonna read it.
Duty Japanese puzzle games.
Uh,
Oh my god, Stringer. They ask 3K, you ask 800. LOL. Yeah, I well, and the thing is though, usually when you're like sourcing this stuff, if you're actually collecting it, you're digging around like that too. People just want to get rid of stuff, so it's
mhm.
not the same. But I mean, when you've built a whole collection like the way you have, Joe, with shock boxes, and I mean, I'm sure you have like the cards for them as well.
I have a few full kits, and I have some of like the mini marquees. I have art sets for some of them without the boxes. It's kind of all over the board,
Hmm.
honestly.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's crazy. $44,000. That's I mean, that's a car. It's a car.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
Did you hear that, Mensa? I'm averaging the whole collection with shock boxes to 44,000. So that's the best answer we can come up with, or I can come up with. I don't want to say Joe did.
I'll figure it out at some point here.
Yeah, but Neo Geo, it's a beloved system. Did you see my Samurai Showdown video by any chance?
I did actually. Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Because I talked about in there the kind of parallels to the Sega Genesis and the Sega CD, and
Yeah.
I was not like as aware. Just a quick side note that the Sega CD actually added as much of a boost to the Genesis as it did. I mean, because technically the 68,000 processor that was in the Sega CD was zero point 0.5 faster than megahertz faster than the Neo Geo processor.
Hmm.
Of course, it just didn't have like the color palette and on
Right.
screen palette and all that. But I mean, it made quite a difference. And I still say I can't believe they never came out with a Street Fighter port for the Sega CD. It would have been like one of the best home ports, maybe.
Right. And then that goes back to like, well, we got it for 3DO then eventually, right?
Yeah,
Like the Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. But yeah, it is interesting that that didn't happen. I wonder,
right. And you
are
think about it,
there,
it's Capcom. Like
yeah, well,
they
that's what I was just gonna say, yeah.
so
Are there
weird.
are there other Capcom Sega CD games?
Final Fight. Yeah, Final Fight.
Okay. Oh,
Uh,
Final Fight, yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, Final Fight CD.
And
Yeah.
that was beautiful. That was a beautiful port. I thought of Final Fight.
I think a lot of people look at that as some people like it better than the arcade version.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the crazy things about console gaming back in the day is there were ports that would come out where we would be like, dude, this is better than the arcade. Like, Tekken, the first Tekken, because you could save the whole character roster. You couldn't do that in the arcade
Yeah.
version. Um, but yeah, I mean, kind of one of those magical things of retro games, I guess, is there are kind of some of those hidden gems out there. But yeah, I really feel like that was a missed opportunity. Like that would have sold huge if they would have come out with like, even Super Street Fighter 2 on the Sega CD. The sprites would have been bigger and everything. What was the other one they did? Fatal Fury Special,
Oh yeah.
and that was another really good Neo Geo to Sega CD port. So,
Yeah.
but yeah. Anyways, I compared like some of the parallels, and I loved the Sega CD version of Sam Show. Even though it didn't have scrolling, I think it's still just such a pretty version of the game. The 3DO version, of course, is the closest to the arcade, I think. But I don't know. I felt like the Sega CD was always more responsive than the 3DO, I think was it.
Yeah, I played the 3DO version because I did that quick video for you a couple days ago, and
Mm-hmm.
I sat and I played it. It does feel off from at least from the arcade version, and
Mm-hmm.
that's I still have my long box Samurai Showdown copy from back in the day for 3DO. Um, but I just sat there and played it on 3DO for a little bit, which I loved. I play because it was the only way I had to play it back then, and um, I don't know. It does feel a little different. Like there's something about it that's just off.
When you remember or you have time, try out the Sega CD version and
Yeah, yeah.
see what you think, because I really think that it was the best console port, just as far as like the gameplay and everything and the responsiveness. But
Yeah.
I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on it. So, anyways, I appreciate your time so much. It was an absolute pleasure having you on here. Chat, do you have any questions? Throw them up now. We got a couple minutes left. And Joe, what do you have going on your channel? Do you have anything that I know you said bits and
It's like
pieces, but
dormant.
do
It's
you
been so dormant. Yeah.
do you have anything that you are planning on releasing in the next, month or so, or?
Yeah, I really do want to pull together. I need to go over the open ice cabinet that I was talking a little bit about here that has the switcher in it. So it's kind of one of my holy grails, one of the last arcade games that I played a ton of in an arcade.
Mm,
And I finished the whole cabinet up, new art, control panel, recap monitor, everything. It looks great. I mean, I'm a little biased, I guess, but the artwork and stuff, I think, Joe Sabo's Arcades, did a really nice job printing that out. But then I put a switcher inside of it, so it's an open ice cabinet. Runs obviously open ice, runs NBA Jam Tournament Edition, uh, NBA Maximum Hang Time, and Gretzky 3D Hockey. So that it runs all
nice.
all four of those games. 4-player control panel, the pinouts for all of the for player 3 and 4 are the same on all those games. So it just worked out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's really nice. So I just tossed all those boards in. So I want to do that. I talked about having some video on my desktop already for Mortal Kombat. I finished that up probably about a year ago, and I never posted a video about it. But same deal, complete overhaul. It's like the first time I completely rewired the whole thing. I had to gut the entire cabinet. It was just a wooden box basically, and then I built my own power block for it and did everything from scratch because I had to. And that runs all 4 Mortal Kombat arcade boards, as well as War Gods and WrestleMania. Again, same controller layout for all of those. So yeah, I got both of those that I'm working on, but then I'm also trying to finish Killer Instinct on the side, like in real time. So it's been tough doing YouTube.
I didn't know that actually that you weren't finished with Killer Instinct. I thought you had that situated for some reason.
I got the monitor situated last night.
Okay.
I got it. The artwork and the cabinet itself are good. I just need to, and I dropped the power block in it last night. So I just got to wire up the harness and then get the neighbor to help me put the monitor in, because I got to lift it up and then put the bolts on it. But
yeah.
I actually have done it myself in the past, but it is a shaky ordeal. So I'm always afraid I'm going to neck the two, because I'm holding a huge glass monitor with a 25-inch tube with one hand while you're feeding. It's not a good idea.
Yeah, especially when the weight gets distributed wrong and you're like trying to screw it on and it pops out at the bottom.
A little
bit.
Oh
my God.
Yeah, and then you crack the neck and then you're just done. Yeah.
Paul says, how did you find a Gretzky 3D hockey board?
It was on Clav. It was on Clav. Somebody sold it on there. They didn't have I think it came without a hard drive.
I was going to ask.
But which is fine. You can just write a compact flash, which is what I did. Compact flash adapter card, and actually in some ways it's better, because there is an unreleased version of Gretzky 3D hockey called the Fatality Edition, and it was not leaked, but somebody released it or had a copy of it and put it out, and it runs on MAME. So I just wrote that to my hard drive. So I run the Fatality Edition of Gretzky, which there's fighting and blood and guys get.
Dude, if you do that video, you have to show.
I'll show it. Yeah. So that's the version that I run on the cabinet now. I for whatever reason, I think like the NHL wasn't too keen on like all the stuff with Mortal Kombat and whatnot. They're like, we don't want a Fatality Edition of this game going on into the
Yeah, this the controversial midway days, huh? That's funny though. But yet they're making like the most violent games. They're like, but not in hockey. Which is already a brutal sport.
In the 90s, that was definitely different than it is today. Yeah.
It's too funny. Well, cool. I mean, I'll be looking forward to that. And I love your videos. I love just kind of like your laid back style that you have, and just your really clean edits and everything, and how you lay things out. I think before I started YouTube, I mean, I was watching channels like yours and stuff like that. This was probably because I've had a multicade like forever, like a PC CRT monitor multicade, which ultimately I ended up selling in the last couple years. But and yours was one of the channels that I loved because I was such a huge Neo Geo fan. Anyways, I really enjoy your videos, enjoy your style.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And I'm glad I could get you on here to chit chat about all this fun stuff. And chat, appreciate you guys. Appreciate all the super chats and my mods. Thank you very much. Anything else? Any last things you want to say, Joe?
No, thanks a lot for having me. And I just echo some of the same comments that you have. Appreciate that, there's fellow arcade enthusiasts across the board. And
did you just call me an enthusiast?
I did. I was looking at your comment. That's what I'm going to drop that since somebody has to read that. So No, I just really appreciate like all facets of arcade related stuff, and so seeing you get into that and your channel grow, and your passion for all of the different arcade titles and stuff that I'm into, and then even stuff that I'm not into, but for whatever reason captures your eye, and then you're excited about it, and I still feel like I have to watch because it's like, oh, what is this? And just seeing other people get excited about stuff that is in the same vein is always cool. So thanks for doing that for everyone.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Mutual thanks. Thanks again, chat. And you guys have a great night. Have a good week. All right. Stay safe out there. Give your loved ones a hug. I mean, enthusiasts. Yeah.
I know. I love it. I
Pure,
use that from...
pure asts, enthusiasts. Stay safe out there. Give your family a hug. If, you don't have someone right next to you, just find someone on the street and give them a hug or slap them in the face. I don't know, but
ask for permission first.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, stay safe, and until next time, I will see you guys then.